Damn, BT.
I came up in the field. I came up in the field. 30 circle. I took my cleats off from calling plays, I came up in the field. Gotta keep the monitor spirits off because they just keep it tight. Cause when you having shit your way, you gotta keep it sad. You gotta show them folks you grind and celebrate in the press. Stack your money up real high, get a bitch and disappear. Don't take your goofy ass outside if you got no business with you. Don't tell nobody all your move, keep your motion to yourself. Live every day that you got here like it's the last one left. Hey, all I push here, P, feel like I'm Herson Miller. I'm from the trenches, look out my door, you probably see murder. These streets might give you what you want, but they'll never love you. They'll take everything you own, and they'll leave you nothing. Cause when you work hard in the paint, you must maintain your beauty. Niggas think they ball forever, but only get 3 seconds. Nigga get flagrant with these files, I'ma have to tell them. Cross that line too early, I'm shooting, that's a violation. Splash Brothers from long range, we'll hit your meal tape. Go back to the crib and kick shit, hood nigga Kumite. I'm gon' crash by my respect, I take that to the grave. I'm gon' do this stunt myself, call me Super Dave. I took my cleats off from calling plays, I came up in the field. Gotta keep the monitor spirits off because they just keep it tight. Cause when you having shit your way, you gotta keep it sad. You gotta show them folks you grind and celebrate in the pride. Stack your money up real high, get a bitch and disappear. Don't take your goofy ass.
I'm back. I'm back, little jokers. I'm back, little jokers. What's up? It's your boy Uno the One, Jenny Hard-Headed Son. We are back for another extra case in your face. Cause you this morning at the morning shift, the morning crew made a great accomplishment. You achieved the goal. We had five super chats in the chat. We actually had 5 super chats that go down. And I said, hey, you get 5 super chats, I give you an extra show. Y'all were like, roger that. 10-4 good, buddy. So I said, okay, let's get into it. We ain't finna play around. I'm finna see who will. I know everybody in here. Modesty, what's up, boo? Thank you for being here. I'm a man of my word. I'm giving you what you asking for. Women dancing like a dancing floor. That's that schoolie, you don't know. We gonna hit this intro. We gonna come back and we gonna get into the case, man. Hey, welcome to this extra work OT morning crew. Yes, sir.
Here this morning, police are looking for a suspect,
the only detective agency capable of handling these grotesque and obscene cases. Look no further than the Wands Detective Agency, where evidence does not matter. We lock you up and figure it out later.
Hey, what's up?
The Wands Detective Agency, with your captain, Uno the One.
Y'all ready to get into this case? I was back here freestyling. I always be freestyling to that beat. Hey, man, say, man, this one is hero or criminal. We ain't finna waste no time. Let's get into the case.
Smiling at his brother during his sentencing is Jason. The man you see smiling at his brother during his sentencing is Jason Vukovich. He earned himself the name the Alaskan Avenger when he began hunting down and attacking men convicted of abusing minors. And soon, you'll hear the story directly from him in an exclusive interview.
911. Police, ambulance?
Yes, some guy just broke in with a hammer.
He broke into your house?
Yes, I've never seen him before.
When a string of break-ins and assaults
That boy
began
that came in that
terrifying
thing
the
swinging
residents of
helmet, it's the
Anchorage,
helmet.
Alaska, the police
criminal
were desperate
already?
to find out who was responsible. As the police investigated, they soon realized that the 3 break-in victims all shared a disturbing background that would bust the case wide open.
What?
As Alaska became the center of a media storm, the
always wanted
police
to
were
go to
left
Alaska,
trying to
y'all.
puzzle
Like,
out
I
the
wanted to go.
perpetrator's motive. Was he a vigilante who believed he could
I
take
still wanna take
justice
a
into
cruise
his
to
own
Alaska.
hands? Or were these violent crimes all part of a revenge spree? On June 24th, 2016, Charles Albee was enjoying
Hey,
a
you
peaceful
two finally
morning
wanted
in
to
his
act
home
right.
when
What
he
up,
heard a
Mo?
knock
We
at
in
his
here.
door. Not suspecting
Me and Modesty in here kicking it. We got the case is called the Alaskan Avenger. Hey, since you just coming in, I run that bike. I run that right bike. We was a minute in. I ain't running the bike no more.
the man you see smiling at his brother during his sentencing is Jason Vukovich. He earned
Thank you, ladies,
himself
for
the
being
name
here.
the Alaskan Avenger when he began hunting down and attacking men convicted of abusing minors. And soon, you'll hear the story directly from him in an exclusive interview.
911.
Damn.
Police, ambulance.
Yes, some guy just broke in with a hammer.
He broke into your house?
Yes, I've never seen him before.
When a string of break-ins and assaults began terrifying the residents of Anchorage, Alaska, the police
Yes,
were
I do wanna
desperate
go
to
to
find out
Anchorage.
who was responsible. As the police investigated, they soon realized that the 3 break-in victims all shared a disturbing
Hey,
background
what it
that
do?
would
What
bust
it
the
do?
case
DOT
wide
in the
open.
building. What's
As
up,
Alaska
dog? We
became
giving
the
that-
center of a
Y'all
media
earned the
storm,
extra case.
the
I'm
police were
bringing it
left
to you.
trying to
I'm a man
puzzle
of my
out
word.
the perpetrator's motive.
We
Was
ain't
he a
having no
vigilante
destiny
who
on this
believed
one.
he could take justice into his own hands? Or were these violent crimes all part of a revenge spree? On June 24th, 2016,
That what I
Charles
see.
Albee was enjoying a peaceful morning
This was my question to you, Muff. This was my question to all of the detectives. Hero. Let me know if y'all can hear me. I had just got a phone call. It was from a charity pickup, but I think y'all can because I can see my mic light vibrating. But yeah, we just y'all earned it. Let's get to it.
in his home when he heard a knock at his door. Not suspecting anything dangerous could be on the
Hero
other
or criminal?
side, Charles opened it to find a tall man with dark shoulder-length hair and a black leather jacket staring down at him. The man forced his way into Charles' home and ordered him to sit on his bed. Charles followed the man's orders, but still, that didn't stop him from facing the man's wrath. The intruder slapped Charles around a few times and detailed how he was able to find Charles's address. He then stole a few items from Charles's home and fled. As soon as the intruder was gone, Charles called the police and told them everything he could remember about the man, including the fact that he appeared to be holding a notebook with a list of names in it. He also told them something about himself, which would soon be a key piece of evidence for the police. Charles Albee was convicted in 2003 of second-degree abuse of a minor, and the intruder had found his address through an offender registry. 3 days later, the police received a late-night call from a man named
Okay, this brings about an interesting question. I'm in the office right now. I'm kicking right here in the office. So this brings about an interesting question. Vigilante justice. Do you feel like he's doing the right thing? That's it. And he should be punished. Yes or no? Let's go. Tap in. Let's go.
Andres Barbosa. According to Andres, he had been sleeping in his home.
These people may have made a mistake, but they paid their debt to society. This man was just living a peaceful life or a non-offensive life after he made his mistake and got charged and sentenced and registered and was keeping up with his stuff. He wasn't hurting anyone else. Ooh, this is a good one. This is a good one right here.
When frantic knocking on his door woke him up at 4 a.m. When he opened the door, he was greeted by a tall man in a black leather jacket, as well as 2 women. The group
Damn.
pushed their way into Andres' home and ordered him to sit in a chair. Following their instructions, Andres sat and suddenly one of the women pulled out her phone and began recording. The intruder then punched Andres several times before threatening to, quote, bash in his dome with a hammer. The man then berated him and stated that he was here to collect what Andres owed. With the women's help, the man stole several things from Andres' home, including the man's truck, before the group fled the scene. While police were already pretty certain that this attack was related to Charles's break-in 2 days prior, there were enough differences that there was a possibility it could be someone else. For instance, the 2 women involved in Andres' assault had not been reported at the previous break-in. Additionally, the hammer used by the perpetrator in Andres' assault wasn't present in the assault against Charles. However, once officers learned that Andres Barbosa was a child abuser who was placed on the registry in 2014 after being caught with inappropriate photos of minors, they knew the 2 cases were connected. This information, the police were beginning to see a pattern forming. Was this man going after child abusers? Was he just a man who had decided that the child abuser...
We got a guy that's going on the sex offender list, finding people's address, going to their homes, forcing his way in. One time he had a hammer, made the dude sit on the bed, and he stole things from him. The second time he came in, he had a couple of homegirls with him, and he stole something. So this is what he doing. This is where we at with it. We ain't doing. This is the extra case that from the super chats that you guys earned. Ain't no desk duty. So, because, it's just extra. Y'all getting the extra overtime. Let's get to it.
The registry was an easy way to find potential break-ins. Or was there more to his motive? Detectives wouldn't have to wait long to find out, as 2 days later, another break-in was reported. However, this one had escalated much further than the others. On June 29th, police responded to a 911 call of another break-in, this time one that had ended in violent bloodshed. After arriving and rushing the man, Wesley Demarest, to the hospital, they were able to interview him and get an idea of what had taken place that night.
Start from the beginning and tell me what happened tonight.
Well, I was asleep. My roommate pounded on my door or something. I woke up and he said somebody's trying to break in. So I got out of bed, and by the time I got to my door, there was some guy standing there with a hammer. The guy told my roommate just to go sit down somewhere. Didn't do anything.
Okay.
Then he started yelling at me about offender. It was 2006. I had a conviction. I had attempted something or other with my step-granddaughter.
Okay.
He said that he was avenging something. He kept swinging the hammer back and forth.
So he done walked you down because you done tried to do something with your step-great-granddaughter. Oh, you nasty.
Boom, boom, boom. You a ugly dog. Boom, 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 boom. You a ugly little dog. Boom, boom, boom. You a ugly, ugly, ugly dog. Boom, boom, boom. You a ugly little filthy ass dog. Boom, boom, boom.
I get down on my knees, which I didn't. Then he told me to lay down on my bed, which I didn't. And then he slapped me a couple of times, or I tried to hit him.
Thank you, Modesty.
A couple of times. Tried to push him. Then he told me to get down on my knees. And I think then he hit me with the hammer on the side of my face.
Wesley Demarest is a registered child abuser who only served 9 months in jail for attempting to assault his kindergarten-aged granddaughter. It wouldn't take long for them to find the man responsible for the attack. The 911 call from Wesley's roommate had mentioned that the intruder left the house in a car shortly before the police arrived. So there was a good chance the man was still in the area.
This guy's leaving now. He's getting in his car now.
What kind of car?
It's a small car.
Do you feel safe going to check on your roommate to make sure he's okay?
Yeah, I'm going to go there now. Oh, man, he's really bleeding. We need an ambulance,
He's
too.
bleeding?
Yes.
Okay, where's he bleeding from?
He's bleeding from his head.
After searching through nearby roads, the police pulled over a suspicious Honda Civic not far from the victim's home. An officer approached the vehicle and introduced himself to the driver, a man by the name of Jason Vukovich. To the officer's surprise, Jason quickly and freely admitted to being the man who broke into Wesley's home. Realizing that they'd finally found their intruder, the officer began recording a preliminary interview with Jason. The officer's roadside interview with Jason started out fairly standard, with the officer reading Jason his Miranda rights and questioning him about what exactly went on at Wesley's house. When Jason is reluctant to talk about the actual attack with Wesley, despite admitting to being the perpetrator, the officer changes tactics and begins questioning Jason on how he discovered Wesley in the first place.
I believe it is February 2000. So you just started the address, saw this guy, decided to go over to his house? Absolutely not. Okay, how did you decide to go over here? Well, I went to the on Beachville first. Right. That's where you work. And I talked to the executive chef, because I absolutely will not make any maneuver, period. Take any actions at all unless I go see her first. And what's her name? Her name is Cherie. I've been working
He is
for
the
this family
sex offender of
40
India.
yeah, correct. She has no relationship.
I
Cherie
don't
doesn't
even know how to feel about it. I'm like in the middle.
I can't speak on
Like,
anything
because
that
these
she
men
does or
really
doesn't
living their
know.
life, right? They ain't said they bother nobody, or it's been any new claims.
I will never
You just
take any
going on
action
some old
unless I go see my Panther.
back in the gap.
This answer from Jason immediately gives the officer some crucial insight into his psyche. It appears Jason is displaying delusions of grandeur by seeing Cherie as his CIA handler, which is a common symptom of bipolar disorder. While it is fully possible that Jason is just saying these things to confuse or deceive the officer, it seems much more likely that Jason has convinced himself Cherie is a handler, sending him out on righteous missions. Those with bipolar disorders also suffer through phases of mania, where they may experience extreme happiness, anger, poor judgment, and paranoia. It's possible that Jason was in the throes of a manic phase when he decided to attack his 3 victims. After talking to the officer about Cherie, Jason was comfortable enough to tell them how he broke into Wesley's house with a hammer and got into an altercation
Ain't
with
nobody
him.
finna break in my house.
How'd you get into the guy's house?
Be like, go sit down, but twang it.
Well, that's
Yap.
You broke your window, pried the door open. Okay.
The
Did
bus
you go
to the
talk to
white
the gentleman? I attempted to, yeah. Okay. What happened? Did you assault him? He started freaking out.
Me and my mama found my Uncle Bubba laying face down on the bed with the forks of a hammer in the back of his head like that, because he used to beat on women, and that girl got mad and got his ass. Tried to kill him. My mama found him. He got a goddamn metal plate and a shrunk on his shit right now. Like, for sure. Back to the case.
Well, my intention tonight was to sit him down and remind him his family nothing about this is what's going to happen. I was giving him some open hand slaps because that's
but
the appropriate way. So open hand slaps should notify someone that what they're doing is extremely inappropriate. Okay, how many of those? 7. 7 of them? Okay. And then what happened? Did you assault him with a hammer at all? No, he started attacking. Started attacking you? Correct. Was he attacking with his fists? Or? Oh, yeah, he's kind of a big guy. He's pretty big guy. I didn't realize he was like 6'6" and kind of a monster. So let me tell you once again, courage is acting in spite of it. Sure, you got that. So he attacked me, and I'm really not much for a fighter, to be honest with you, seriously.
While Jason's account of events did slightly contradict that of both Wesley and his roommate, this interview made it clear to police that Jason was the intruder. Not only that, but his comments made them confident in the fact that he had also been responsible for the other 2 break-ins as well. Despite Jason being the only one involved with this break-in, he wasn't actually alone in the car. In the passenger seat was a woman named Elisa Geisler, whom police suspected was potentially one of the women involved in the break-in and assault of Andres Barbosa. Both Jason and Elisa were brought into custody for further questioning, as officers hoped that these 2 could shed more light on the many questions surrounding the case.
That man took his girlfriend on
First and foremost, why had Jason
mission.
started hunting down offenders? Elisa was the first one to be interviewed at the police station. Detective Landis, the main investigator conducting the interrogation, walks into the interrogation room, only to find Elisa asleep in her chair. He tries to begin the interrogation after waking Elisa up. However, she's crashing from a high on methamphetamines and is struggling to stay awake. It's slightly questionable that officers would choose to interview Elisa in this state,
Yeah,
as
in
her
that state. That's
inebriated
crazy.
state would affect both her judgment and her memory.
And everything.
Additionally, Elisa's mental state hinders her ability to make decisions, including consenting to the police interrogation. Despite this, officers are able to get a few key pieces of information out of her.
Is there a hammer in the
Not while
car?
she's drunk, right?
Fine.
Come on now.
Yeah.
Come on now. Don't do that
So
like
if I
that.
want to get the
Like
hammer,
that,
where do
down
I
now.
need to look in the car to find it?
I think it's just right there in the front seat.
Front seat? Okay.
Given the state Wesley was found
Yeah,
in,
it's
it's
in
likely
the
that this
front seat.
hammer
Like
would be
what?
covered in
No.
blood.
That should
If the
be
police were able to recover it
not
from Jason's
admissible
car,
report.
it could serve as damning
Admissible.
DNA evidence against him. Alongside this information, Elisa is also able to nudge detectives closer towards Jason's motive.
So Jason is the Alaskan sex offender vigilante. He goes on the registrar of sex offenders and find their address, pull up on them, force his way in, smack them around a few times, steal something. He did that to 2 people. On the second time, he added accomplices, 2 women. He went in with a hammer, set the man in the chair. He said smacked him around by 7 times. He had the girls rob him. But this next time, he went in the house, forced away, was swinging the hammer back and forth. Bam. He hit the dude. He said the dude stood up. He said he ain't much of a fighter. So, boom, he got away. But after that, he went in and bashed somebody's head in with the hammer. And all of these guys were once registered, well, still are registered sex offenders, but were convicted of sex offense crimes, usually on minors. So that's why I'm like, But these men were living better lives. They, hopefully, I don't know. Yeah, Sharon, I had to come get y'all. My girl went and got, thank you. I appreciate you. Let's say if they get a good lawyer, that's thrown out. Oh my, again, I ain't really mad at them. You feel what I'm saying? Like, so you like, is he a hero or a criminal? We finna find out. Let's get back on it.
Does Jason have a particular dislike for sex offenders? Has he ever talked to you about that?
Most of that I've been to jail. I have a
What?
special dislike for them, yes.
He
I'd
does.
say
Why
yes.
did they
I'd
get
say
this
yes.
interview?
Unfortunately, before
What,
the
Anita?
detectives can get any more useful information out of
Hope
Elisa,
you good.
she passes out once more. After letting Elisa sleep for a few minutes, they try to interrogate her again. At
They didn't
first,
do
it
nothing.
seems
They
that
were
she's
just
just giving
sleeping,
them more of the
bombarded
same
in their
information,
house.
until she mentions something interesting.
What was the conversation that Lucky had with you when he came out of the house? Did he say anything about hurting somebody or doing what was righteous?
Yeah,
Or
something like that probably.
probably? Do you remember what it was?
Doing the work of the righteous.
It seems like here the detectives are attempting to use words that the other witnesses used in order to spark Elisa's memory and try to engage her. While this would normally be frowned upon in interviews, Elisa is extremely sedated
gotta
and
be on that
unlikely to provide
sheet.
any helpful
Two
information
times
on her
on that
own.
belt.
It might have been beneficial for the officers to let her sleep it off for longer and try to talk to her more openly when she was coherent, but they may have been worried that she wouldn't cooperate when she sobered up. The only person who could confirm or deny this for the police would be Jason himself, and it was finally time to interview him. In this
Yeah, let's talk to Big
interrogation,
Jason,
Detective
man.
Anderson takes over while Detective Landis sits in. Unlike most people
Let's
brought
talk
in
to
on
Jason,
assault
man.
and
See what
robbery
he got.
charges, Jason is overwhelmingly friendly towards the detectives and is happy to chat their ears off.
Nah, he a
Despite his
chatty
charming
daddy.
and polite demeanor, Jason avoids actually answering
It is.
many of the detectives' questions, instead going into detail about his philosophies on life.
I mow the lawn with that and pull weeds and change light bulbs. And the reason why is because I'm attempting to demonstrate humility.
Detective Anderson stays calm and friendly towards Jason as he rants, and slowly prods at him until Jason gives the detectives some useful information. By keeping his cool and acting like Jason's friend, the detective is able to build up a rapport with Jason and earn his trust. This tactic works, and Jason eventually gives the detectives some information they can work
Y'all already
with.
said he was a chatty
I'm
fatty.
just trying to get a sense of what's been going on.
Y'all ain't do
I
nothing
guess
extra, but now y'all
without
already
getting
said he
into a whole
was a
bunch
chatty
of
fatty.
unnecessary specifics,
Why
I
did
can
she say,
tell
hey,
you
Mr.
that
Nito?
what's been going on
She said, hey,
is
Boogie.
hard work.
Okay.
And hard work out of concern for kids.
Jason makes it clear to the detectives that everything he's done has been out of concern for children,
Oh, Jason.
and he even gives them extra insight on how he views his crimes against offenders.
Jason said, I'm
People
not
who have
much of a
committed crimes
fighter.
against children have been convicted
I
in a
just
court of
bust you
law.
upside the head with
And
him.
you want
Look
to
at
see that these
that
people get what you believe they deserve. Is that not correct, or is that correct?
Let me think. Yeah. Be careful how I respond.
Okay.
This is what I would like to say. Do I think taking retributive action on people that have done something to kids, wanton or otherwise, is what I want? I have to say, not specifically, no. It's not my desire to go running willy-nilly through this life, doing something like that.
Maybe what you want isn't the right phrase. Maybe it's
Let me ask y'all. We putting him in regular jail or we gonna put him in the crazy house? I need 3 of y'all to let me know. Regular jail or crazy house, and then drop the warrant for me.
what you feel you were required to do, or that it's the right thing to do.
Those are both extremely accurate statements.
So even though you may not particularly want to do it, it's kind of a sense of duty.
Oh, absolutely. Without a doubt. It's kind of the way I say it is I wouldn't expect to
I
have
don't know you.
privilege or
See, that's why I tried to put it on y'all.
privilege or extra freedom in this life without
hit him
also
out.
being willing
man,
to
one knocking him
participate
up
in
with
the entire
Now you want to have
practice.
a heart.
You know, not
Play with
just,
you with me.
not just, okay, cool, I can have all the good stuff, but none of the
I
work.
wish I had a button to
Yeah. Well, I
charges.
think when you use the term work, that's probably what I'm seeing is it's out of a sense of duty. It's actual work. It's not something you enjoy to do, but it's something you're required to do or you feel obligated to do.
That is without any exception the case. And I can tell you that internally, I am in no way, shape, or form a violent or dangerous person. I certainly have no assaults on my record. I would not seek to just, I say we derive no joy from a person suffering anywhere. You know?
Jason's urge to protect children
glad I
is
gave
certainly
y'all that
admirable,
lesson on
but he
Rick
could
Ranks
just be
this
using
morning.
that as a convenient excuse to enact violence on others.
On them
The
Rickies.
police have to determine how much of this is true in order to fully understand Jason's motive. Unfortunately for the detectives, Jason's refusal to answer
Well,
most
say, hey,
questions in a straightforward manner makes it hard for them to get any concrete details out of him, forcing them to look elsewhere for information.
Hello? Hey, this is Jim Anderson with APD. I got word from the DA's office that you had some info about Vukovic and what he was doing last time he was locked up.
He was talking to others about where they would go around and find guys that were convicted of child molestation or whatever, and he would tell them that they would provide them protection, but that they were keeping an eye on them, and that they knew who they were, and was trying to recruit other guys to join him in doing that.
It wasn't hard for Detective Anderson to acquire Jason's rather extensive rap sheet, and it became evident that Jason had a history of trying to deal with offenders. Now that there was more than enough evidence to prove Jason was responsible for the break-ins and assaults, it was just a matter of time until...
I got it now. He thought he was what? What's that superhero movie, like the unlikely superhero, like Superbad or something like that? Super ass, super bad. You know what I'm talking about. Well, Michael Cera was in there. Yeah, y'all know what I'm talking about. That's what this is. A rogue vigilante ready to give. He's basically Batman. Give out some quick.
his trial and
civilian
sentencing.
justice.
While sitting in jail, Jason came up with a plea deal that would not only shock the press and the police, but would also reveal to the world the true reason he went after these offenders.
Superbad that jump.
On September 16th,
Not on my
2016,
son's
several
birthday.
months after his initial arrest, Jason sent a letter to the Anchorage Daily News claiming that he would be willing to serve the combined sentencing of not only his 3 victims, but also the sentence given to Jason's stepfather, the man who assaulted him as a child, but never served time for the crime. With the publishing of this letter, it became clear to the world that Jason wasn't just attacking offenders in an attempt to keep the local children safe. He was someone who had gone through the same pain and confusion that these offenders' victims had gone through. In his mind, he was going to do whatever he could to make sure that none of the men he could find would ever hurt a child like that again. The question was, is this vigilante justice or revenge? Well, we reached out to Jason, and he recounted that final incident that resulted in his arrest.
I started going places and knocking on doors. And, for the most part, delivering a pretty stern sermon and giving these guys a message of sitting them down in a chair, instilling through fear that, hey, there's people around here that care about these kids. Like, I never wore a mask. I never brought a gun. I never, this was not like some sort of murderous mission by any means. The last one I went to this guy's house, and I was knocking on all the windows and doors for probably 45 minutes. His lights were on, telling him to come outside. I needed to talk to him, and I knew he was awake. Obviously, he didn't want to come out and see me. So I grabbed a hammer out of a tool bag in the back of my car, and I used it to smash out the side light of his window and then climbed inside. He was a relatively wealthy person with his home had been converted, unbeknownst to me, to some sort of a bed and breakfast that was on a lake. And so a guy and a lady were coming out of one of the bedroom doors, and I knew they weren't him because I'd seen his picture. So I told him, get back in the bedroom. This doesn't have anything to do with you. And then I went into the master bedroom and get in there. And this guy is probably, 6'4", 6'5", 300 pounds. This is a big guy. And I told him to sit down on the bed, and he didn't want to, and he started pushing on me a little bit, and then he started punching me in the face. Then I got angry, and I realized I had that hammer in the bag on the floor in between us, and so I just squatted down and picked it up, and I hit him one time, and then in the course of the struggle, I hit him 2 more times. I told him, you can consider me an avenging angel for the children you're missing. And anyway, I'm assuming that the couple that I told to get back in the bedroom called the police, because by the time that whole physical altercation was over, I got back in the car and the police were already coming in, and they stopped the car. And police were patting me on the back, asking me, man, did you get that motherfucker? Did you get him good? Were shaking my hand, all this sort of stuff. I was in shock. Ambulance is going by. I'm thinking to myself, I've probably just killed this person and the rest of my life is gone. I am not a violent person, and I don't take joy in any sort of violent confrontations. I never have been, never will be. However, when you're dressed to the state of a child and you realize this time I'm going to win against this sort of person, there's some sort of a strange, it's just sort of a strange feeling in that moment that it needs to happen, or it needed to happen. That's the best way I can explain it.
In a recent interview conducted with the Unforbidden Truth podcast, Jason recounted his childhood and how it led him down this path of a violent crime spree.
I have no memories whatsoever of about 12 years old on back. So I suppose, and I think that's a trauma-related response.
Jason's memories began with the abuse from his stepfather, Larry Lee Fulton. Jason and his brother Joel were both subject to abuse at Larry's hands, with the monster creating a custom 2x4 with a 2-handed grip to beat the backs of his stepson's legs. Not only did the 2 young boys have to grapple with beatings so brutal they struggled to stand, but their stepfather soon began assaulting them during late-night prayer sessions.
My brother and I shared a room where he would come in and, try to touch our genitals and all types of things like that. And again, as young kids, it's extremely difficult to make sense of what's happening to you.
While struggling to deal with the mental turmoil caused by his stepfather's actions, Jason turned to his mother for help.
Neither one of us had the courage to say anything, so I told Joel, that's my brother, I'm going to tell her, I'm going to tell Mom what he's doing. So I told her,
Sometimes
and
I
she
ask,
absolutely didn't believe a word we said and made
is
me
this
sit
true
there
or
on
are
the
you just
kitchen
making this
stool
up?
until he came home from
shit
work
that you did.
and had him march in the kitchen, and she did the standard, tell him what you told me, tell him what you told me.
Right, Monica,
Made
you
me
saying his
recite the
stepdaddy did
abuse
it. Why you didn't get your
to him.
stepdaddy?
Which he basically was very dismissive about, and mumbled something about being curious about whether we were maturing or, something like that.
Jason and Joel were forced to endure the coming years with no hope of help from any adult in their lives. Eventually, it got to be too much for Joel, and he ran away from home, leaving Jason to face the full wrath of their stepfather. Joel was eventually found by the cops and was arrested for being a runaway. However, Joel made the brave decision to tell the cops why he ran away. An investigation into Larry Fulton was started, and he was eventually found guilty on charges of second-degree abuse of a minor.
Okay.
In the grand scheme of things, this charge was meaningless. Instead of sending Larry to prison or removing Joel and Jason from his abusive care, the state of Alaska suspended the 3 years of prison Larry was sentenced to as a part of his plea deal and sent him right back home to torment his children more.
Ain't
Not
no
only did
way.
Joel face physical punishment from his stepfather for going to the police, but he...
How's that possible, y'all? I get you convicted, they suspend the sentence, and they send you right back to the address on file with me living there as a witness that's telling that got you convicted. How? That's some real dog type activity right there, bro. Like, you don't give a damn about my well-being at all.
Boom, boom, boom. You a ugly dog. Boom, 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 boom. You a ugly little dog. Boom, boom, boom. You a ugly, ugly, ugly dog. Boom, boom, boom. You a ugly little filthy ass dog. Boom, boom, boom.
claims he was also mocked and ridiculed by other members of his family for his confession. Joel and Jason were pulled from school immediately after Larry's trial, and the family moved to a town where Larry's abuse would be less known. Looking for any way to get out of the house, Jason began taking odd jobs fishing, hunting, or doing commercial work. Through these jobs, he was able to save up some money, and at the age of 16, Jason snuck out his bedroom window and ran away like his brother had done 3 years prior.
Part of the process of leaving home, my parents found out I had been sneaking out, so I came home from one of those nights, and my clothing was in trash bags on the front porch, and all of the windows and doors were locked, and they had kept my driver's license and my social security card, all my identifying papers.
Jason was able to afford a plane ride to Spokane, Washington with what money he had left, but with no ID, he was unable to get paid by any employers. Soon his money started to run out, and Jason was forced to turn to petty theft and forged checks to afford food. 5 months after starting his criminal career, the law finally caught up with Jason and he did time in juvenile hall. Shortly after his release, he would be arrested and brought back for similar crimes, a cycle that would continue for much of Jason's life. Jason commented on this part of his life in the letter saying, "Being a thief and a liar fit nicely with my lack of self-worth, my silent understanding that I was worthless, a throwaway. The foundations laid in my youth never went away. They simply remained hidden, and everything I chose to do was built on those thoughts and feelings from the past. I'd started down a long, winding path of deception and self-abuse." By the time he was 20 years old, Jason had spent over half of his adult life behind bars. The time not spent in prison was occupied by drugs and dead-end jobs. At 30 years old, Jason decided a change of scenery might be what he needed to bring his life in order, and he soon found himself back in his home state of Alaska. For a while, it seemed like life was improving, but that wouldn't last. Jason was finding joy in the little things again and was able to support himself through a legitimate job. Unfortunately, Jason lost the job a few months later and once again found himself resorting to crime. This would lead to a 6-year prison sentence, shortly followed by another 3-year stint in prison when Jason was caught violating his parole. After being released in the summer of 2016, Jason was once again aiming to live a humble and simple life. But those plans changed when he began to hear rumors of men in his community who were taking advantage of children. According to Jason, hearing these rumors made him think back to his own horrific childhood, and he felt the overwhelming urge to take matters into his own hands and hunt down the offenders in his area.
Modesty.
These actions inevitably led to Jason being caught.
He like the hood Bruce
He was
Wayne.
eventually brought to the exact same courthouse his monstrous stepfather was tried. Despite many lauding Jason and calling his actions heroic, he ended his letter by discouraging copycat behavior, stating, "If you have already lost your youth like me due to a child abuser, please do not throw away your present and your future by committing acts of violence." While it can be tempting to explain away Jason's violent actions because he was abused, it's important to remember that many abuse victims don't go on to engage in criminal behavior. However, being abused or neglected as a child can increase the likelihood of arrest as a juvenile by 59%, as an adult by 28%, and for a violent crime by 30%. Many victims of abuse develop revenge fantasies where they imagine themselves standing up to their abuser and fighting back. In Jason's case, these fantasies may have made him feel all-powerful or divinely righteous to the point that he felt he was capable of making these revenge fantasies a reality by hunting down local offenders. Not only was Jason able to get symbolic revenge against the man who hurt him, but he was also able to help other children in the process by doing for them what he wished someone would have done for him.
You call these folks at a sneak attack type shit. There was old heads. Like,
While Jason may have been able to gain some catharsis for his trauma through this revenge, he paid the ultimate price for it. In the days leading up to his official sentencing, Jason wrote another letter to the Anchorage Daily News, this time detailing his life story, explaining how he found himself in this situation, and discouraging other victims of abuse from following in his steps. He wrote, "To those who understand how it feels to live through abuse and carry it with you, let me share my story in an effort to prevent its repetition." Much of the public was on Jason's side, and they rallied for him to be given a light sentencing.
most of us.
In the end, Jason
We
was
on
given a
Jason's
plea
side,
deal that would
but-
reduce his charges. He recounted
The law
how
is the law,
officials
break it wrong.
reacted to his plea deal.
I wrote them an offer through the
playing
newspaper
God.
to the prosecutor's office, and I told them I will plead
It wasn't
guilty
har-
to any
harming you
combination
at
of
that
charges
moment.
you wish, anything you want, with the following caveat. My sentence is to equal in length what each file served in prison for harming a child. So the guy that raped his own daughter received 2 years and change. I'll serve his 2 years and change. The guy that was convicted of molesting his 10-month-old granddaughter got 3 years in prison. I'll serve his 3 years. So now we're at 5 years, 5.5 years. The child pornographer did 2 years or did a year and a program or something. So I'll do his, and I told them I'll even serve the 3 years in prison that you suspended for the monster that made me. So I'll do 9 years, 6 months, run that right now. I'll sign. I'll plead to whatever you want. And of course, they summarily laughed that offer out of the courtroom and said, "This is not how we conduct business in the state of Alaska."
He was eventually sentenced to 25 years in prison. Not only was the public opinion of Jason
Wait.
incredibly high, but after being sent to prison,
So he didn't. I don't think he murdered. He had a lot of blood. They didn't say he killed nobody, did he? He got 25 years. All 4 of them combined only got 9. Ooh, talking about that ain't how they do it in Alaska. Okay.
and Jason discovered that many of the guards and fellow prisoners also considered Jason a hero, especially when his sentence was 3 times longer than the combined sentences of the men Jason assaulted. While being processed into prison, it was discovered that Jason was suffering from PTSD, which he believes was a factor in his crimes. Research shows an association between being the victim of trauma, especially chronic victimization, and the later perpetration of a crime.
No,
After
I'm
serving the
taking
first
them all,
4
mama.
years of his sentence, he attempted to appeal, stating that his PTSD should have been taken into account during the sentencing process. However, this appeal was denied, and his sister Angelina has taken to social media to advocate for her brother's freedom. She's also managed to gather over 27,000 signatures on a Change.org petition calling for Jason's release. Speaking to Jason from prison, he wanted to make one thing clear.
It's also important for people to know that never at any time was it me that went and sought out any sort of notoriety for this.
Since being in prison, he's reflected a lot not only on his own life, but that of some of the people he's met behind bars.
In retrospect, after being educated while being in here, you realize that childhood trauma is rocket fuel for everything destructive that a person has in their life.
Amen.
And no one tells you this, and no one comes along and gives you any pointers or indications or anything. You get jail sentences, and people tell you you're bad and horrible. And for me, I was a thief and a liar for many years of my life. Never stopped to think why. I started getting letters from people all over the world. And
the petition? I will.
Contrary to what you might think, these weren't letters with high praise and accolades and pats on the back and things like that. Typically, these letters were 2 or 3 or 4 page descriptions of people's pain and the suffering and the things they went through when they were a kid. As I started realizing I wasn't alone. While I've been in prison, I have done informal surveys, and I'm telling you, the percentage is so high. Guys that end up leading a life of crime or drug addiction or demonstrate criminal behavior, it is so high, like probably 70 or 80% of these guys suffered childhood trauma or abuse. In my free time, I do a lot of writing.
I agree, Mo.
It's really cool. It's just actually finished a book with Professor Joshua Long at UMass in Boston. We co-wrote a book together called Legacy of Retribution.
Our girl Maddox, we got her book coming. Y'all tap in. Y'all stay tapped in now.
There's a guy named that runs a hardcore recovery coaching business, and he's offered me a job as a recovery coach, a trauma and addiction recovery coach, which is great. Probably devote the meaningful portion of the rest of my life to doing some sort of lasting legislative pursuit to change some of the laws pertaining to child abuse. Certainly in my state, maybe nationwide, would like to create an SOS app that allows kids to self-report abuse if they're suffering in the household. And that to me seems like a huge missing component in our society. And if that isn't a glaring, issue, I don't know what is, and people need to pay attention to that. The justice system needs to be realigned.
Jason was granted parole at his hearing on April 10, 2023. However, in a seemingly unprecedented move, his actual release date was set for April 11, 2028. Our most recent communication from Jason came in the form of a message on May 25, 2023, and reads as follows. Thanks for the kind message. I appreciate the support. Also, let everyone know that the book that I wrote with Professor Long is available for pre-order on June 30th, Barnes & Noble. It's called Avenging Child Abuse. Let me know if you want to do any follow-up conversations. I'm just trying to come to terms with the whole decision and do my time as quietly as possible. Needless to say, it was worth it to me then. It's worth it to me now. But you are correct, this was a very, very strange decision by the board. No classes to take, no further therapy available, just more time required. Odd. The circumstances of the 5-year delay of Jason's release are unclear and seem to be based on the inner workings of Alaska's parole system.
Damn, Alaska cricket? They cricket like that? I didn't know that. What y'all feel? Do y'all still do that? Does that change how you feel about Jason? Is he a hero or is he a criminal? If he was granted parole, Alaska shitted on him anyway. They said, "No, you don't deserve parole. You're gonna do these years." 5-year delay. I agree. This whole thing is a movie. He's still a criminal. I agree. He is. He's still a criminal. Even though you went and did what you did to these criminals, you made yourself one of them. Mm-hmm. One of them folk people is on that board. Absolutely. Y'all, we didn't even make it to an hour. We didn't even make it to an hour. Come on.
Woman went missing while out for a morning jog. Her case made international headlines and quickly became known as Salt Lake City's most high-profile disappearance. Still, no one could imagine the series of baffling lies that were discovered during the search for her, exposing years of secrets and a dark double life. On the morning of July 19, 2004, 28-year-old Mark Hacking woke up to find that his wife, Lori Soares Hacking, had already gone to work at Wells Fargo, where she was a stockbroker's assistant. Lori had planned to wake up around 5 a.m. that morning and head out for a run, as she often did in the Memory Grove area of Salt Lake City, Utah. She was then going to return home, get ready for the day, and Mark was going to drive her to work at 7 a.m. However, when Mark woke at 8 after accidentally sleeping in, he just assumed Lori had come home and driven herself to work without waking him. This suspicion was confirmed when he noted that her vehicle was gone. Not thinking much of it, Mark continued with his morning like usual. That is, until around 10 when Mark called her work and he realized she had never arrived. It was only then that he noticed the clothes Lori had laid out to wear to work were still at home. In fact, he was on the phone with Lori's co-worker when he made the discovery, saying, "Oh my heck, here's her clothes. She never came back from running." Thoroughly concerned, Mark then called 911 just after 10 a.m. The desk sergeant he spoke to told him that he had to wait 24 hours to report Lori as a missing person. Assuming there wouldn't be much help from the police, he then headed for Memory Grove and found Lori's car where it was still parked in the area she usually left it while running. But there was no sign of his wife anywhere nearby, and her car appeared to be undisturbed. Soon, Lori's co-workers arrived to help in the search for her, and many of them had also called the police to report her missing. They were joined by both Mark and Lori's family members. Lori usually ran a set route, and her loved ones were already checking the trail she followed when the police arrived on the scene. They told officers that Lori always ran along the roadway when she was alone, and only veered off this path if she had a companion for safety. When officers interviewed Mark, they noted that he was very upset, and it was difficult for him to keep his composure long enough to speak with them. Still, he managed to tell them what had happened. Mark claimed that he'd already ran his wife's normal route to see if he could find any trace of her, which crossed a creek, and explained why his shoes were wet when police arrived. As he was sharing his story, Mark became so overwhelmed that he fell backward against
Mark. We locking Mark up. We locking Mark up, y'all. Because everything I done heard so far, Mark he is really overreacting. Not really saying overreacting, but he's just so suspicious in his movements. Mark Buller, I'm gonna go ahead and put these cuffs on Mark. I'm gonna put them cuffs on Mark.
Detective, put the cuffs on this one. At least until we figure it out later. Cuff him now.
Come on, Mark.
the passenger side of Lori's car. Salt Lake City was already reeling from the kidnapping of 14-year-old Elizabeth Smart only 2 years earlier in 2002. With this distressing incident in mind, a thorough investigation was immediately launched to find Lori, despite Mark previously believing he had to wait 24 hours. K-9 units and helicopters flying low were deployed to help in the search, But over the next few hours, they came up empty-handed. Still, people began coming forward to share their experiences in Memory Grove, with a few different women recalling unsettling interactions with suspicious men in the past. Soon, a disturbing theory emerged that someone may have kidnapped Lori from the area while she was out running, similar to what had happened to Elizabeth Smart. Lori's disappearance was especially distressing because the couple was on the brink of all their dreams coming true.
Yeah, I see you
Her
trying
and
to
Mark
be
were high
soft
school
today.
sweethearts and had been married for 5 years. As
Let me
Mark had
hear
just
'em.
graduated with a master's in psychology
hear
from
'em,
the
what he got to
University of
say.
Utah, the couple had plans to move soon to North
seemed like a
Carolina,
sweet
where
man.
Mark had been accepted into medical school to study oncology at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. His father was a pediatrician, and Mark was following in his footsteps, just as one of his brothers had. Lori had even resigned from her beloved job and put her plans for an MBA on hold until Mark finished medical school. Most of their apartment was packed up, and the couple had just celebrated their going-away party 3 days before her disappearance at a mountain cabin owned by Lori's boss. The couple had even more exciting news, as Lori was about 5 weeks pregnant, compounding the tragedy of her disappearance. According to friends and family, she was extremely excited about the upcoming move and the baby. By that afternoon, flyers were posted around the city in the hopes that someone had seen what happened to her. However, things became complicated when a neighbor of Lori and Mark's was interviewed. This neighbor noted that Lori's car was out in front of the apartment building at 7 a.m., and when she left her house again at 8:30, it was still there. These contrasting witness statements further complicated the investigation. How had she been out for a run and returned home, only to have her vehicle be found again at Memory Grove? With this mystery in mind, investigators turned to Mark to explain. But he couldn't clear up the confusion, as he was certain Lori's car was gone when he woke up. As with most cases, the spouse is the first suspect, but it was hard to understand why Mark would have any motive in Lori's disappearance. Some of Lori's co-workers were interviewed as they were close to the couple. One co-worker stated that she hadn't noticed any change in Lori's behavior recently, which was normally upbeat, and that her relationship with Mark seemed exceptionally happy, especially because he'd sent her flowers at work. Lori's mom confirmed the sentiment, saying that she had a great relationship with Mark and the two adored each other, with Lori calling Mark my big old teddy bear. In fact, everyone who knew the couple believed that they were happily married and deeply in love. Still, Mark had done something a bit odd that morning before he realized Lori was missing. Between 9 and 10 a.m., he'd gone out and purchased a new mattress for their bedroom, presumably for their move. Strange, but it wasn't overly concerning for investigators. Later that afternoon, on the same day that Lori had gone missing, Mark was brought in for a quick interview. On the ride over to the police station, Mark made the comment that Lori is going to be so pissed at me. When asked what he meant, Mark elaborated, saying, "If you guys ever find her, she will be so mad at me because I didn't go running with her." Once at the police station, he relayed his story once again to an officer.
What?
In your words, what's been going on so far today?
My wife got up at 5 this morning, went running. And I stayed in bed. I woke up at 8 and she
Yeah, I remember that Peterson case too.
awakened me.
And
She got
Elizabeth
home
Smart
and
case.
showered and went to work at 7. At least I thought that's what had happened. When I woke up and she was gone, I just figured she hadn't awakened me, just let me sleep. And so I got up at 8, did some things. I played my Nintendo a bit, and we needed a new mattress. We decided to get one, so I went, and we had been shopping around, looking at different places, and I had found one.
What time was that?
I left my place at about 9.
Okay, what happened after you got the mattress home?
I put it on my bed. I was putting sheets on. Called my wife while I was putting sheets on. And someone else answered the phone.
But what time is this?
About 10.
Called wife's cell phone?
No.
No.
Her
Work phone?
phone.
So I'm trying to get for assuming there. What was the reason for the call?
Just to say hi.
Okay.
It don't make no
I
sense to me,
asked
bro.
to talk to my wife. Well, I don't remember the exact words. He said something along the lines, is Lori okay? And I
Brandon
said,
asked you that?
yeah, and I said, I don't know. And then he told me she hadn't come in. So I went looking
Look, he's
for her.
lying like hell.
Okay, how did you know where to go look?
Because she runs in the same place every day.
Initially, Mark had agreed to participate in a CVSA test, also known as computer voice stress analysis, which is a controversial technology that tries to measure deception through changes in frequency and stress when someone speaks.
Let me explain the test to you.
Stressed at all.
You understand it, so you feel comfortable with it, and so you won't be afraid of it. Okay? What this is a truth verification machine. Okay? Have you ever had a lie detector test, the old-fashioned type? If you've seen them on TV, okay, they have like the box and they have all the arms going around, the papers rolling, the guy's sitting in the chair and he's all strapped up and all that stuff. Okay? That was developed in the 1930s. Okay? We're hoping technology's advanced a little more since then.
What's up with him? Why you looking like that, my boy?
This is just waiver form. It's basically saying you're taking this of your own free will. Nobody's forcing you or coercing you or anything of that nature.
I do feel coerced into taking this.
And how do you feel? I mean, let me explain this to you. Nobody's making you take this test. If you don't want to, you can walk right out that door. Right
And
now.
what happens to me?
You walk out the door and they take you back up to your car.
And if I refuse, then of course that makes me look guilty.
It's not admissible in court anymore.
Y'all already worried about what
We
it
trust
looked
the
like.
machine. The courts just don't. It just gives us something to verify the information we've got so far. And obviously, as you said, obviously, we got some concerns about this mattress thing. We interview people that have killed people all the time, and they don't tell us the truth. And that's what this machine is just for.
But at the same time, I've got these circumstances that look bad. So I feel like if I don't take this,
sorry, y'all.
then
Those pretzels
I'm just
were
going to be
delicious.
drilled.
You have nothing to lose by this.
I don't think I want to take it.
Okay.
Investigators thought his behavior was a little curious and decided to take a closer look at the apartment where they lived. Police were dispatched to examine the dumpster in the parking lot outside. There, Mark was joined by one of his brothers, who asked why the police were there, and Mark replied, "Apparently they're nervous that I bought a new mattress," followed by, "I just need to get away." Yet despite their suspicion of Mark, officers didn't find anything in the dumpster. While the search for Lori continued, Mark's behavior took another strange turn. Just several hours after Lori went missing, police were called again at 2 a.m. on July 20th to a commotion at a hotel about a half-mile from Mark and Lori's apartment. Mark had been staying the night instead of at the apartment. There, he was found running through the hotel completely naked, except for a pair of sandals. Hearing this, his brother Scott arrived at the hotel. There, he found an unexpected message written on Mark's PDA, a handheld computer, reading, "To everyone, from Mark. This is justice. I'm so sorry." Following this incident, Mark's family made the decision to check him into a psychiatric unit to receive help. Later, an FBI profiler, Candace DeLong, commented on this incident saying, "He kept his shoes on, his sandals. That's not generally something we see in someone truly psychotic." This comment has led some to speculate that Mark may have been trying to play crazy, with the intention that he would be hospitalized.
Not play crazy.
And there was a very good reason for him to attempt this. Mark had a secret. Actually, he had many secrets, and they were all about to be uncovered. Mark Hacking had been living a double life. His entire family knew him to be busy and studious, often leaving textbooks open and spread out around the couple's apartment. On more than one occasion, he even had Lori's mother help him to write term papers, all in preparation for his acceptance to medical school. But here's the thing. Despite an imminent move to North Carolina, Mark had never been accepted at the university there. In actuality, he had never even applied, or anywhere else. This was especially shocking for his family, because Mark had actually traveled across the country to attend fake interviews at multiple medical schools. But this lie was just the first of many. Years of intricately weaved deception slowly began to untangle. Never mind not getting into medical school, Mark had actually dropped out of school altogether and never even graduated from the University of Utah. All the books he had strewn around in the apartment and the term papers he wrote were part of Mark's elaborate attempt to sell his lies. He would even leave the apartment and tell his friends, family, and Lori that he had classes to attend. So if he wasn't in school like he claimed, where had Mark been spending all of his time? Well,
yeah, let's go ahead and drop them warrants, man. Let's go ahead and book Mark. Mark is out of there, bro. He's a compulsive, procrastinating liar.
I wanted to kill Fargo, but you were too smart for that. They have nothing on us. I got you. Book him, Dano. Fargo, pull the switch. I've got to get out of this concrete box and see if I can pick up that bleeper.
That is a good one. You said he needed the money for school. He didn't want that baby. That's something that us smart, logical people would say. But he wasn't even going to school. He was just traveling around. He wasn't even going to school. Fool ain't even finished the University of Utah, mother. That boy hell, man.
When he was meant to be studying for rigorous medical exams or in class, Mark was often seen hanging out at a store in his neighborhood, drinking soda, eating hot dogs, and smoking. He told the people that worked at the store that he was a therapist and begged them to keep his smoking habit a secret from Lori, as they were part of the Church of Latter-day Saints and weren't supposed to smoke. These weren't his only lies. Mark had told Lori's mother that he worked at the Neuropsychiatric Institute at the University of Utah, where he ran therapy sessions. But in reality, he worked as a licensed healthcare assistant and hospital orderly who conducted group activities, not therapy. In an odd story, hospital officials say that at work Mark wore a shirt tag reading Franz, but claims it wasn't an officially issued name tag. He chose the name from a Saturday Night Live episode featuring a pair of narcissistic bodybuilders. His many lies rocked his and Lori's families, who had all believed that the couple was not only happy, but successful. His own father spoke to the press, as the case still had a chokehold on international news, saying, "We didn't see it coming. We got completely blindsided by it. People began to speculate that Mark had fabricated the elaborate lies out of a perceived pressure from his family."
Mark ain't have enough nuts about himself to tell his people that, but I ain't going there. I ain't doing that.
Jail. You going to jail. You going to jail. Hot damn it, you going to jail. Lock his ass up. Lock his ass up. You going to jail. You going to jail. Your ass.
Brother were doctors, with another brother as an electrical engineer. Mark explained to his family that he'd only lied about his education, which he called misleading people, because it was a little lie that snowballed out of control. Still, he adamantly denied knowing anything about what happened to Lori. Believing him, Lori's family stood by Mark as the search for her continued. It was uncovered that the last time Lori was seen for sure was at a convenience store on Sunday evening, the day before she vanished. She and Mark were spotted on surveillance footage, and everything appeared to be fine. The interesting part was that Mark was seen again after 1 a.m. buying cigarettes, but this time there was no sign of Lori. Mark had an explanation. Lori had gone to bed, nothing sinister about that. But still, there was something that wasn't sitting quite right with investigators. The new mattress. As a fan of true crime, you probably thought that was particularly suspicious.
Absolutely.
And investigators agreed. They soon headed to the church Mark attended and examined the contents of the dumpster there. And they found something. An old, used mattress. Curiously, the top part of the mattress had been cut out and was missing. Mark once again had an explanation, though not for why he'd used the church dumpster instead of the one at his apartment to dispose of the old mattress. But he claimed that he and Lori had thrown out the old mattress because she had a heavy menstrual cycle and bled on it. Still, that answer didn't quite sit right with investigators, and soon the timeline Mark told about Lori's disappearance was falling apart. Police began to suspect that Lori never even made it out for her morning jog. Even without all of Mark's lies unraveling, the physical evidence wasn't matching Mark's story. Lori's car was closely examined.
Lying. Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop fucking lying.
It was uncovered that the seat and car mirrors had all been adjusted for someone far larger than Lori, who was about 5'3" and 115 pounds, meaning she wasn't the last person to drive the vehicle. And worst of all, blood was found in the back seat. It was described as a blood transfer stain, which happens when wet blood from one object touches another object. Adding to the growing evidence, investigators took a closer look at the apartment with Mark's permission. Lori's purse, keys, and wallet were found there, further indicating that she had never left to go for her run. As officers searched the bedroom, they uncovered spots of blood on the headboard and on the nightstand. Looking closer at the nightstand, one of the officers opened the drawer and found a sheathed knife. At this discovery, Mark, who was with them the entire time, chuckled nervously. He explained that he had the knife since he was a scout. The officer noticed what appeared to be a spot of blood on the blade and a fingerprint. After this discovery, police sought a warrant to conduct a more thorough search and asked Mark to leave the apartment. It was clear that Mark was a suspect in his wife's disappearance. But still, no one could have predicted that there were even more disturbing secrets yet to be revealed. Everything came crashing down on July 24th. 5 days after Lori vanished, when Mark's father and brothers confronted him about what happened to her. Lori's relatives soon spoke publicly, asking volunteers to give up the search for her because of the chilling story Mark admitted to his family. It's unclear why Mark decided to come clean at that point, but it's possible with his other lies already exposed, he knew he couldn't hold on to this one any longer. Mark explained that on the evening of July 18th, the couple argued after Lori confronted him about his double life, his many lies, and their impending move. You see, Lori's colleagues recalled that she'd been left in tears on Friday, July 16th, just 3 days before her disappearance, and the same day of their going-away party. They believed that she had contacted someone at the financial aid office at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, to make arrangements for Mark, where she was told by a school administrator that there was no record of Mark being enrolled there. The administrator even put Lori on hold and contacted the American Medical College Application Service and confirmed to her that Mark hadn't even applied. Lori had been so upset by the news that she left work early. Still, she arrived at the going-away party with Mark as though nothing had happened. That's because Mark had lied to her once again. He told her that he'd spoken to the same administrator and there'd been a mistake with the incoming student list on the computer. None of that was true. Lori had even called the school back and left a voicemail, claiming that Mark had straightened everything out. Lori's voice message wouldn't be heard until Monday, and by then she was already missing. Still, her voice message aired her doubts. She said that she wanted the administrator to call her back and let her know that everything is okay, not that she doesn't trust her husband, but for her own peace of mind. The reason for Lori's skepticism may have been because this wasn't the first time she'd caught Mark in a lie. Lori had once confided in a friend all the way back in 2000 that Mark had lied to her about enrolling for 1 semester in college. Little did she know that was the tip of the proverbial lie iceberg. She must have suspected that Mark was lying once again, because she eventually did confront him.
What's a
Two
woman call
different
you a liar,
neighbors
boy?
who
That's
lived
what
near
you
the couple
always
came
do to her.
forward, with one saying that she heard loud screams around midnight on the 18th, coming
She was
from the
very pretty
apartment,
with this
and
ugly
the other
ass,
saying that they heard a
ugly ass
male
boy,
voice
man.
shouting, "This, it's all over, and that's it." Mark said that Lori eventually went to bed while he stayed up for about an hour playing video games. He then began to go through their packed belongings until he found his .22 rifle and went into the bedroom and shot Lori in the head while she slept. Systematically, Mark disposed of her body, the murder weapon, and the bloody mattress by depositing them in different dumpsters. When Mark was spotted on the convenience store surveillance footage at 1:30 a.m. without Lori, had he been out getting rid of the evidence of her murder, or was he getting ready to commit the sickening deed? In the video, Mark can be seen examining his hands, fingernails, and even checking his watch. Could he have been looking for traces of blood? The next day, he headed out to buy a new mattress, likely hoping that no one would even know the first one had been thrown away, before staging another intricate deception, this time Lori's supposed disappearance. Based on his actions and behaviors, Mark sounds like he suffered from narcissistic personality disorder.
There's always something,
These individuals tend to present as charming and wonderful until you begin to pull away the layers of the reality they present you with. Once someone begins to confront this individual, they become irate, completely furious that someone would dare to question their word. They also exhibit characteristics such as a pattern of grandiosity and self-importance with a belief that they are special, a need for admiration and expectation of recognition for their superiority, fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love, and a lack of empathy such as being unwilling to recognize or identify with the feelings and needs of others. The unimaginable horror of Lori's death was further compounded by the overwhelming question of why. Yes, Lori had caught Mark in his lies, but her family was certain that Lori would have been able to forgive him. Her brother even said of Mark, he didn't have to be a doctor, a president, whatever it was. As long as he was doing his best, she would have loved him. Still, a typewritten note was eventually found in the couple's spare bedroom. It's believed Lori wrote it, but it's unknown exactly when. In the letter she writes, "I want to grow old with you, but I can't do it under these conditions. I can't imagine life with you if things don't change." Perhaps this was why Mark killed her, because Lori was threatening to leave him if he didn't change. A forensic psychologist, Dr. Kathy Yates, commented on Mark's possible motives and seemingly pathological lying, saying, as he grew up and was watching other family members get successful or be successful, he was not. There's an element of grandiosity. He felt like he deserved more than he was getting in life.
I can give you that one, OG. He did.
Don't you remember you is a little ugly doggy? You said you'll be coming back, your ugly self. Ugly, 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 oh, ugly. You were ugly, ugly little dog. Doom, doom, doom.
But didn't want to put his energies into achieving the kinds of goals that he probably could have achieved. Mark was arrested on August 2nd, 2004 on the suspicion of aggravated murder. Even with this confession, there was one integral thing missing: Lori's body. The search headed to the Salt Lake City landfill. For months, there was no sign of her, even with intensive searches utilizing cadaver dogs. That is, until Lori's highly decomposed body was discovered on October 1st, almost 3 months after she'd gone missing. Due to the body's decomposed state, it couldn't be confirmed whether or not Lori was pregnant at the time of her death. Following this discovery, Mark Hacking was sentenced to 6 years to life in prison. If that short sentence gave you pause, it sounded too lenient to other people as well. However, at the time, this sentence fit the guidelines under Utah law. But due to public outcry, the Utah Board of Pardons and Parole held a hearing to reevaluate Mark's sentencing and ultimately decided that he wouldn't be eligible for parole until 2035. Following this, the sentencing guidelines for aggravated murder was increased to 15 years to life, a law change that has been referred to as Lori's Law in her honor. Eventually, Lori's father had the last name Hacking taken off her headstone, leaving her maiden name, Soares. And though this case seems like it's over, from behind bars, Mark managed to carry on with his shocking behavior. He was caught signing and sending autographs for a site specializing in murder memorabilia. After this was uncovered, Mark agreed to stop, but he still wrote his life history, which has yet to be published.
Yeah, man, Mark is a dweeb. I hope y'all had a good time. We rolled through 2 cases, lunchtime vibes. I appreciate my girl Modesty going up and rounding up the detectives. She did her 6 years, Sharon. Yes, 6 damn years. Thank you, Modesty, again. So it's only right. Modesty went and rounded up everybody in 30 minutes. We finna go have some colorful conversations. She might even go early. She might go early since y'all ready to conversate. Since everybody is ready to conversate, Modesty might hit the button. We go over there and we colorful and we coloring and we conversating. I hope to see y'all then. Thank y'all so much for hitting the goal. I paid y'all back. Y'all hit the goal. I gave y'all what y'all earned. Now I hope y'all have a beautiful, beautiful day. See you again tonight at 9:05. But we finna go colorful and we finna be conversating colorfully. I'm gonna be in the comments dropping hearts and smiley faces. I love y'all, man. Peace.
Here this morning, police are looking for a
The only detective agency capable of handling these grotesque and obscene cases. Look no further than the Ones Detective Agency, where evidence does not matter. We lock you up and figure it out later.
Hey, what's up?
The Ones Detective Agency, with your captain, Uno the One.